Which brings me to this question, third issue, regarding my two favorite ministers, Dr. Balakrishnan and Mr. Chee Soon Juan. And let me start by, forget the Tan Chuan Jins, forget the Leon Pereira. They're not the ones that are going to affect your life. You're focusing on the wrong thing if you keep talking about them. Let me start by showing you the first slide. Let me start with this letter that was written in December last year. She says, can the housing board consider building larger flats? A larger home, especially one with more room, helps address the needs of growing families and promotes multiple generational living. I want to draw your attention to this last year. Promotes multi-generational living. I'll come back to that. Well, the reply by the HDB was, given Singapore's land constraints, HDB has to strike a balance between the size of HDB flats and ensuring an adequate supply of flats. Forget about the mumbo-jumbo in the last few words. Can we build larger flats? No. The reason, given Singapore's land constraints. And then you have these two ministers going and renting this huge property. And just to give you an idea of how big the place is. The typical living space per Singaporean in HDB flat is 26 square meters. A 4-room flat currently is about 100 square meters. It's smaller than that actually. The living space for Shanmugam family member is 5,750 square meters. You take that as current property that he's renting. 23,000 square meters, right? And I've looked around and the only information that we get about his family members is he's got 2 children from his previous marriage and his wife. There's no information about him living with his extended family. At least he hasn't volunteered that information like Mr. Dr. Balakrishnan. And then you take a look at Vivian Balakrishnan's Facebook. You can't see the house from his gate. You open your HDB door, you look right into your other block's kitchen. Because you have this situation. And it's all come about by the fact that your ministers, the people who rule over us, have gotten this idea that they're the best in Singapore and no one can replace them. That's why they have this sense of entitlement. Remember that word. Entitlement. I deserve it. You, the people, owe it to me because I am that capable. Without me, Singapore is going to go down. So you better be thankful. Not the other way around. You better be thankful that I accepted this job. Then I come back to this point. The reason why Vivian Balakrishnan says he wanted that house was because he wanted his children and his grandchildren to be under one roof as he is. You have Mr. Roy Ong coming up and asking HDB, can we please have bigger flats? Because I want my grandchildren and children to be under one roof. Government says no. And that Vivian Balakrishnan rents this humongous place. That's my problem. That's like, it sticks like claw in your throat. When I talk about entitlement, after it was reviewed, if they come up and say, look, we get it, okay? As government ministers, we make decisions on your behalf, and it really doesn't look good if we did this and then tell you that you cannot have bigger flats because of land constraints. Right? That's one thing. But no, they don't. K. Shanmugam comes up and says, I have long liked black and white houses. Tell me, any one of you have not long liked black and white houses. But it doesn't mean what I long like, I get to have. And this is my problem here. You remember also that Vivian Balakrishnan said, what do you want? A meal at the restaurant, hawker center, or food court? I've jumbled up the order, right? But it was in response to people asking for the poorer segments of society. No? This is my problem. Do you see, my friend, of the kind of governance that we now have? Where your ministers feel so entitled, these places were rented by Shanmugam's and Balakrishna's wife. It transpired that in June 2018, Mr. Shanmugam's wife signed a tenancy agreement with SLA. 3 months later, Dr. Balakrishna's wife happened to drive past the place that they've rented now and chanced upon 31 Ridout Road and decided that they wanted to rent that place. There are many, many questions involving this whole matter, which hasn't been answered. I don't know if it's been asked, but I haven't read any answers relating to this matter in Parliament. Number one, were the bids made in their wife's name? If they were, did SLA accept the bids? Because you've got to remember the guiding bid, the guiding rent, is $26,000 for 26 Ridout Road, and was it $19,000 or $18,000 thereabouts for 31 Ridout Road? Did they qualify? Did these women qualify? Two, was it a coincidence that both of them just happened to also then apply and then sign the agreements on the husband's behalf? Three, and I think this is the most important. Why did Balakrishna and Shanmugam have their wives sign or make a bid for these agreements? That I don't understand. Why couldn't they have signed the tenancy agreement themselves? I read in Straits Times that the whole thing started when Shanmugam asked his deputy secretary to give him a list of houses that could be rented. Here you're asking a civil servant to give you a list that he was going to use in his personal affairs. These are questions that need to be answered. And if they are not answered in Parliament, then they have to answer it as I'm bringing up right now, which I'm sure the information, the questions will filter to you. It's not going to be so easy to have a 6-hour Parliament session and then say, nothing to see here. Let's move on. If you don't answer these questions now, it will reverberate, it will get louder, the chorus will become more and more frequent until cooling off day. At the very least, I really think this calls for a commission of inquiry where these answers can be addressed. What were the correspondences? Exchange of emails, forms that were filled in, forms that were signed. All these must come to the fore. If you don't, you're going to have another situation again like what James raised a little while ago. Right? The non-transparency, non-accountability will then hold. The topic of this forum today is political leadership and Singapore's future. This is what I want to hone in on now. Political leadership. Effective political leadership must necessarily encompass moral leadership. But what is moral leadership? We talk a lot about it. Moral leadership is not just keeping your pants on outside of the house or not accepting bribe. Moral leadership is not about denying the people bigger flats and then going out and renting humongous properties with resplendent grounds. Moral leadership is not about making pious statements during elections about being servants of the people, and then live like kings and queens while subjecting the people to cramped and crowded public housing. Moral leadership is eschewing the poisonous mindset of entitlement that we see among our current generation of ministers, where they feel that they are owed their positions of power and privilege. Moral leadership is to deny yourself of the greed that keeps you from genuinely being with the people so that you can speak for the people and, most importantly, act on behalf of the people. Moral leadership is for our ministers to know the true meaning and spirit of public service, which must include the idea that to be one of the people, we must live among the people. Moral leadership is doing what is just and fair. It is about prioritizing the welfare and well-being of the people who elected you over your own self-interest. Now, I've just described what moral leadership is, but why is it important for government officials to possess and exercise moral leadership? It is crucial in guiding individuals and society as a whole toward a more just and compassionate life. It is what makes for a healthier, more cohesive, and thereby sustainable future. I mention cohesive because you can practice hypocrisy and intimidate the people into silence, but I must quickly add that this is only for a time, because this kind of behavior, when you give yourself but deny the people, which will lead to the ultimate fracture of society. In this particular saga, specifically regarding the Ridout rentals, while the people may have no choice but to accept that parliamentary debate about the saga is now closed, we can be sure that the wound of resentment will continue to fester. Now, even as SDP celebrates our 43rd anniversary of our founding, a very solemn message for the PAP. Heed our warning. You cannot continue to lead the country without moral compass. And I have told my members, especially the younger members coming, never to forget that reputation is temporary. Class is permanent. And by class, I don't mean how wealthy you are, or how expensive the wine you drink, or how fine the clothes you wear. By class, I mean how decently you treat your fellow human beings and how you serve humanity. I am profoundly sorry that I have to articulate these next few words, but the latest developments within the higher echelons of the PAP makes it very low class. Thank you.